I want to talk about slavery being a choice. Kanye West said this some time ago, and people were outraged and just really pissed off at him for saying that. No one understood how could he say such a thing. And, people are still talking about it today. So I wanted to talk about it because I agree with it 1000%. And it's the truth. No question about it. And I understand that people may have a hard time accepting it and don't want to accept it, but it's the truth. Not only was slavery a choice, but everyone that was a slave deserved to be a slave. And they got what they really wanted. So first I'm going to talk about slavery being a choice. And then I'm going to talk about how everyone that was a slave deserved to be a slave. How was slavery a choice? Slavery was a choice because you always have options. Every African that was sold into slavery and put on that boat and, brought over to America had a choice. They had options. And some people exercised their options and some people didn't. There was a guy I was just reading about. His name was, I believe, Madison Washington. And it is said that he led the most successful slave revolt in history. While being on a slave ship heading to America, he organized a revolt where him and some other men gathered together and overpowered the captain of the ship and demanded him to sail the ship to the Bahamas, where slavery had been abolished. Now, most people never even heard of him. But what's the difference between a Madison Washington and, all these other Africans? Here, Madison Washington is responsible for freeing almost 200 would-be slaves. So that's almost 200 Africans, that were supposed to be slaves, but never became slaves. Because of Madison Washington and the others that joined forces with him and supported him, teamed up with him, those that united with him against the captain of the ship. Everyone could have did that. Surely there were far more Africans on those ships than there were crew members. Slavery was a choice. And Madison Washington chose fuck slavery. He was willing to die for his freedom. He was willing to fight for his freedom. And those that joined with him were all willing to fight for their freedom. Give me freedom, or I'm going to die trying to be free. It's like in America, we say, give me liberty or give me death. You always have a choice. And so, I mean, you have to know there's many more stories like this. Now, they hide these things from us, but there's more Madison Washingtons, I'm sure. And then about Harriet Tubman. You probably know about Harriet Tubman. That was a slave, but she's responsible for creating the Underground Railroad and helping many slaves get free. Slavery was a choice. And I'm sure there are a lot more examples of people that fought for their freedom and got it. But then there were those that didn't fight for their freedom. They just accepted slavery. That was a choice. And so this leads me to the second part. Those that were slaves deserved to be slaves. Because anything worth having is worth fighting for. And if you're not willing to fight for what you want, then you don't deserve it. So as a slave, if you're not willing to fight for your freedom, then you don't deserve to be free. And it's just that simple. I don't understand why people struggle with this and why people, want to make excuses and play the victim. Anyone could have been a Madison Washington. Anyone could have been a Harriet Tubman. And like I said, these are just two examples, but I'm sure there are many, 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 many more that we just haven't heard about. If you were really against being a slave, you wouldn't be a slave. 50 Cent made an album called Get Rich or Die Trying. He wanted to be rich so bad that he was willing to die trying to get rich. And what happened? He didn't die trying to get rich, and he got rich. And that's just the mindset that you have to have. But you always have options. And so if you don't choose to exercise your options, then that's on you. If, and also, slavery is portrayed to be this horrible thing, and I'm not saying it wasn't, but I'm just saying, surely there were slaves back then that enjoyed being slaves. There were slaves back then that enjoyed their life as a slave more than they enjoyed their life when they were free. There's no doubt about it. Like look at just the house nigga, for example. Living in the master's house. There were a lot of slaves back then that really felt like life was good. And you see it today. Like the same shit is going on today. We're slaves today. to some degree. We're all slaves to different degrees. And many of us love being slaves, love being in the master's house. Like, look at all the shit that Kyrie Irving and Kanye West is going through just for speaking truth. And where's the support? Ain't nobody standing with him, speaking out against what's going on, the injustice, the obvious racism. Not from Kyrie and Ye, but from these white Jews that are what you call it? I don't know the word, but that's pretty much trying to silence them. They're not doing anything wrong. They're speaking truth. And if they're not speaking truth, then prove them wrong. Present the truth. Present some facts. But still, they're not promoting violence or hatred or anything. They're both just basically saying the same thing, although Kyrie didn't say anything at all. He just posted a link to a documentary. But the documentary and what Ye is saying is the same thing, and that's just that black people are the original Jews and the Jews that the Bible talks about. That's all they're saying. And you have white Jewish leaders just banding together to boycott Kanye and to talk other like business leaders into not doing business with them. And everybody is just, they don't want nothing to do with them. And they're accusing them of speaking hate and being anti-Semite and all this bullshit. And none of it's true. None of it's true. Like, I've been listening to the book that got Kyrie in trouble. Well, it was in book form first, and it's a documentary also called From Hebrews to Negroes. And I've been listening to it because I was just curious, like, why are these people so upset with him for posting this link? And that's all it's talking about. That's literally all the book is talking about, is that black people are the original Jews. Black people are the original man. All races of people came from black people. What's wrong with that? I don't understand the problem. But the racism that they're and the bullying, that's really what it is. I'm not even going to say it's racism. I'm going to say it's bullying. Because they're trying to make them be quiet. They're trying to make them suppress their opinions and suppress the truth. They're trying to force them into silence. They're bullying. They're trying to bully them and intimidate them. These are two slaves that chose to stand up not just for their freedom, but for the freedom of their people. But where is their people? You see all these house niggas that love being in the master's house because master's treating them good, that love being slaves, speaking out and condemning them. like Shaquille O'Neal, Charles Barkley, and just so many more. The only person that I only know one person that's supporting him, and that's Nick Cannon. But the point is, it's the same shit today as it was back then. Slavery isn't dead, it's just in a different form. And so back then, they might have used a physical whip to punish slaves into obedience and to instill fear. Today, the whip is suspending Kyrie from the NBA. Telling Adidas not to do business with Kanye. And all these other, Balenciaga, all the other companies that he was doing business with, having those companies pull out and refuse to do business with him. Today, the whip is financial because they whipped them pockets. They want Kyrie to pay $500,000 to the Anti-Defamation League or whatever. They're still whipping them in front of the world. It's just a different whip. But again, where are the black people? Right? So just how today a lot of us choose to be slaves. We choose to be enslaved to the system and this corrupt ass government. And we choose it because we're not doing anything about it. We're not standing up. We're not fighting against the system. We're not uniting as one. We're not. They boycott fucking Kanye. Why aren't we boycotting them? Why aren't we boycotting Nike and boycotting Adidas and boycotting Balenciaga and boycotting fucking The Gap and boycotting the NBA? And why aren't we boycotting everyone, every company that has anything to do with the bullying and the attempted oppression of Ye and Kyrie, as well as all the rest of us? We ain't doing shit about it. We could also crack a whip and hit they pockets. The same shit they do to us, we could do to them. Because they need us. Because the God that they worship is money. And we could easily just, if we were able to unite and just pool all our financial resources together and just boom, make some power moves. We're not supporting them. Do not buy anything from this company because they support blah, blah, blah. We could move strategically as one, and they would be forced to listen to what we say and do what we want them to do. But we don't do that. Because we would rather be slaves than be free. It takes effort to be free. But as a slave, everything is done for you. As a slave, the master feeds you, master clothes you, master houses you, master takes care of you. But as a free man or woman, you have to do those things yourself. And I guess the majority of us have a problem with that. Like, we'd rather be given handouts. So it is what it is. So this is why I say, if you're a slave, you deserve to be. Because if you're not fighting for freedom, you don't deserve freedom. And ultimately, if you're not fighting for freedom, then you don't want it. You would rather be a slave than fight to be free. Prove me wrong. Please, somebody prove me wrong. So I'm going to wrap that up here. Let me know what you think.